and welcome to another episode of Inside CKP. I'm your host, Jeremy Como, and today we have the wonderful DT Reed, otherwise known as Diane. Welcome, Diane.
Thank you.
And for those that think your screen is broken, as a note, we had some equipment malfunction, and so we're not going to be doing a video of our wonderful faces today. It'll just be images that I'll be putting up, so you're not going crazy. This is what it looks like. Okay. Before we get too far, let's go ahead and pay the bills. This podcast is brought to you and supported by Chris Kennedy Publishing. Go to Chris Kennedy Publishing for all your reading needs. There's military sci-fi, fantasy, even a little romance, space odysseys, you name it, they got it. Go read it. And also, while you're on their website, sign up for their newsletter, because if you're waiting to see stuff on Facebook, that you might miss something, and you can always get the information. Not only that, you can potentially become a pre-reader for them. So check that out. Of course, support Chris Kennedy Publishing and this podcast by going to Chris Kennedy's Patreon, where wonderful content on there. They have CKP Confidential and other things that they do there, and so you get a lot of goodies for what you sign up for. And of course, in addition to the Chris Kennedy Publishing website, you can find them on Amazon. But go to the website; it's a little easier. And of course, if you want to see all the shenanigans and things that go on behind the scenes and people having fun in real life, sign up for the Chris Kennedy Publishing Facebook group, as well as the factory floor. This link doesn't have the actual name of the group, so if you search factory floor, Chris Kennedy factory floor, you'll find it there. And that way you can keep up with all the shenanigans that goes on behind the scenes. But again, I do for any author that you like or want to follow, or publisher you like or want to follow, go to their website, sign up for their newsletter, sign up for their Patreon, and that's the best way to get all the content. All right, so with the bills paid, Diane, if you would, tell people where they can find you.
Where they can find me. Okay, I've
Yes.
got a website. I think Jeremy's got yeah, there we go. There's my website. And I know it's kind of an odd one, but when I went to get DT Reed author, somebody had already got it. So I had to play around with getting a domain name. So there's that. I also have a Patreon, and I think Jeremy's got that. Yeah. So there's my Patreon. And then, of course, I'm on Facebook as well. So you can find me there. So, yeah, this was a really inconvenient time for the camera to go out on my laptop. So,
It's
but
fine. We're going to make it happen.
that's yeah. So I'm very appreciative of Jeremy for doing this instead. So we're not just staring at a blank window with a little camera icon on it. So,
Got to make it pretty.
so
Plus, I'm less shy this way. Nobody can see my face, so it's fine. So
likewise,
yeah, there you go. See, we plan. Just act like we plan to do it. It's fine.
yeah.
Um, and for speaking of Amazon, you can find Diane on Amazon. I'm going to put this is a link to the entire series, and I'm gonna go ahead and put that into the comments for all those who may be interested in that, and so you don't have to hurry up and write it down. Okay, I'm gonna do that now.
Okay, great.
And let's see. Yes, there we go. All right. So anybody that's interested in the books, and you all should be if you're here, go and check that out, and you can see all the wonderful works. So let's talk about why are we here, Diane? What are we doing?
Okay, well, Crucible comes out tomorrow,
Hmm.
and this is the third of 6 books in the Seventh Shaman series. And it was interesting when I first met Chris, the boss, last year at Superstars, and we sat down and chatted. And one of the questions he asked me is, "How long are the books? You know, how long?" And at that point, I had three of them completed and was working on what was book four at the time, and book five just in the planning stages. But when I told him the lengths of the books, when I got to book three, he said, "Oh, that's really kind of long, kind of too long for my parameters." And then he grinned and he said, "Would you rather get paid for one book or two?" Now, there's a no-brainer question. So we split book three in half. So Crucible of the Gods is actually the first half of the original book three, and book four, Apprentice to the Gods, which I just turned in recently, is the second half of what was the original book three. So there, and it was interesting. I had to flesh them out a little bit. They were it ended up being, when I split the two in half, they were a little shorter than what Chris likes. So I fleshed them out a little bit to about 100,000 words each, and which is a little bit shorter even than Running from the Gods. But I had a lot of fun with it, fleshing it out. The cover art is one of the specific battles in the book. I saw this when Chris sent it to me and going, "Oh yeah, I know exactly what battle that is." So, yeah. So I've been very, very pleased with these covers. I love the work that this
Oh,
artist does.
oh yeah, they're great. I really like these too. That's why I started including them into the promos and stuff. They're really really nice.
Yeah. And one thing I really like about working with CKP is that Chris says, "What would you like to see on your cover? Do you have any ideas about?" And when I was working with a large New York publisher, which shall remain unnamed, I did not have one word of say on what went on my covers. And so I love this. And I think Chris has found the perfect artist for this particular series.
Yeah,
So
no, this is awesome. So now, where, how did you come into the Chris Kin? Where did y'all meet? And kind of.
at, at Superstars last year, and
Oh,
this
okay.
was really an interesting story. Because I did not, I'm a very slow writer, and I was expecting to have to self-publish. And so I thought, I am not going to pitch to anybody. I'm not prepared to pitch. I didn't plan a pitch. I just thought I need to wait until I get the last book well into progress before I even start thinking about marketing. And so I just went to Superstars expecting to attend the seminar as usual. But one of my friends got tagged to run the appointments desk, and there she was all by herself, and she's brilliant and very capable. But I thought, I don't want to leave her just stuck here by herself, handling all of this. And so I kind of became her Girl Friday, and so it was my duty basically to get people to their appointments, either with the editors, the agents, the mentors, for whatever. And so I kind of walked people into their appointments. And I think it was on Saturday when one of the folks in charge there at Superstars said, when Mr. Kennedy's next appointment comes out, kind of hold off before you send in someone else, because we may need to move him to a different room. There apparently was, it appeared there might be a room conflict.
Mm,
So when his appointment came out, I just thought, well, I'll just chat with him while we're waiting for the decision makers to make a call. And so just kind of introduced myself, just mentioned that I was a veteran with a series in progress, and yada yada, you know. And then someone said, "Yeah, go ahead, and he can stay here. So send in his next appointment." So I did, and there were only a couple of folks left. And after his last appointment, when I went to tell him, "You're free to go, that's all for today," he said, "Well, do you have a couple of minutes?" And I said, "Sure." So I said, "Well, come on in and let's talk." And he gave me the full 10 minutes that had been set, for the regular appointments. And maybe it's a good thing I didn't have a set pitch prepared, because I might have frozen up.
mm-hmm.
So was we just had a really fun chat, and I told him the story arc and stuff like that. And at that point, like I said, it was 5 books, and then we decided, yeah, we needed to split that third one. And so what's now book 4 is slated to come out in the middle of Superstars this coming year.
Oh,
My word,
nice,
everything that can
nice.
happen, what can happen in 1 year's time. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So, and then because the last 2 books were not completed, he is giving me more time. And so I'm back to working on book 5. I spent some time working on book 5, and he's asked me to turn that one in by the end of, well, we kind of decided the end of July. And we haven't even talked about book 6 yet. But anyway, so there will be kind of a pause between book 4 and the last 2, but
Hmm.
um, I'm having fun with those two. So
So you just turned in book 4, is that right?
I turned it in the beginning of December.
Oh, awesome, awesome. So,
Yeah,
speaking of, so you were on the show last. Oh, wait, I wanted to comment on your prepared pitch versus your just conversational. It probably is a better thing that you just went in and had a conversation rather than a pitch. One, like you said, nerves, but two, from what I understand, Chris picks people not just on their books. It's also, are they a good fit for for the organization? Does he like them? Does he see that they're gonna fit into the family, because that's what CKP is,
yeah.
and
Oh,
apparently,
yeah.
yeah, apparently that worked, so congratulations.
And I have felt very much at home with CKP, and chatting with some of the other authors on Messenger and stuff like that, and seeing each
Hmm.
other's posts and cheering each other on when their books come out and stuff like that. And it does have very much a family feel, and I'm really enjoying it. It's so different in
Yeah,
a very refreshing way from working with a big New York publisher.
yeah. So
I feel
um
like I'm really making some friends, even though and some of them I already knew from Superstars.
mhm.
The chat that I had with Chris, I ran up to my room and looked up the CKP on here on the laptop and went, oh my gosh, I know half of his authors because they're downstairs in Superstars.
Mhm.
So that was an instant feeling at home. And then there's others that we didn't know each other yet. So I'm looking forward to uh, getting better acquainted at Superstars this year and seeing each other face to face and knowing who each other are
Mhm.
this time. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, those conventions turn into old home week after a while.
oh, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And Superstars is very much old home week to me these
Mhm.
days. Yeah.
So you came on a little over a month ago. So what have you been up to since the last time you've been on the show?
Well, let's see. Turning in, wrapping up the final revisions and fleshing out what's now book 4, and that'll be called Apprentice to the Gods.
Hmm.
And then getting back into and then I asked Chris, can I take December off? Because I've got a bunch of other stuff I need to deal with, just family stuff, Christmas stuff, you name it, and some task type of stuff. And he kind of jokingly emailed back and said, "I'm not your mom to tell you when you have to work or not." LOL.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, so I've been able to catch up on a bunch of stuff. I've been having some issues with the newsletter, with the email server or program working with my web host, and
Hmm.
it just was not connecting. And so I tagged one of my local friends who's an IT guru, and we sat down and worked it out and finally got that to connect. So now, yeah, I can go ahead and start being productive with the newsletter, and I've got one ready to go. And so, people who are interested in hopping on the newsletter, there'll be one coming out New Year's Day, I think, either
Mm.
that or New Year's Eve. And but you can sign up. Go to my website, and yeah, there it is. Thanks, and you can sign up there. And I'm just going to be kind of following up on what's going on with the books, and what's how things are progressing, and just kind of having some fun with it. So, so
Okay.
feel free to sign up.
No, yeah. Well, and I say this almost every episode is like, if and probably a couple times an episode, if you're a fan of a particular author or publisher, sign up for their newsletter. It is the best way to get information about that author. Not only that, but a lot of times you get free stuff, and it's awesome free
Oh
stuff.
yeah,
And you'll find out
yeah,
about new authors.
yeah.
So
One thing I'm preparing to do, and I haven't caught. I do need to get back with my website designer about this to set up the last things, because I will have I've got a reader magnet ready to go, and for
mhm,
those who already signed up, I'll make sure that they get that, after the fact. But yeah, she's been busy over the holidays too, so it'll probably be next week sometime before I can connect with her and really do the last ironing out the details of setting up the reader magnet. And that um, is a story it's a prequel to this series. It was written for an anthology that, unfortunately, due to life circumstances that happened to some of the contributors and also the folks who were putting it together, the anthology didn't happen. And but I had been asked to submit to it, and so I went back to them, and said to the people who were doing it, and said, "May I have your permission to use this story somewhere else?" And they said, "Oh, sure, go ahead." And it's I don't know how many of you know who James Artemis Owen is, who does the Drawing Out the Dragons presentation at Superstars, but he did an illustration for this short story. And so this reader magnet will be this short story, which is a prequel and complete with the illustration that James Owen did. And so hopefully for those who are already signed up, I'll be able to get that sent off to you within the next couple of weeks, and then it will be available there as a reader magnet for anyone else who wants to hop on.
yeah,
And that was
that's
an
a great
interesting
idea.
little, kind of backstory to some of where Ku is coming from.
Hmm.
So,
No, that's a great idea because I don't know if anybody else is like me, but I'm a completist. Meaning if I start a series and it's got spin-offs and offshoots and prequels and anthologies and stuff, I have to read it all or I feel like I'm missing something. And so that's a great
yeah,
idea.
and I'm probably going to do some. Another thing Chris asked me when we had that little interview last year was, "Well, do you have any other stories in mind when you finish this series?" And I said, "Yeah, there's characters I can kind of go off on sidetracks in some of their stories, what they do, or backstory with some of them, have some interesting personal histories and stuff too. So I'm looking forward to being able to kind of play with that, and whether it's maybe short fiction or full length novels with some of them. I think that'll be fun.
Okay. Well,
Um,
I want to give the audience a heads up before I forget is we're going to be doing a giveaway on this podcast. So why don't you go ahead and tell them how they can win.
okay, one of the things that Jeremy and I talked about was, for those of you who've read the previous two books, who was your favorite character and why? Um, if you haven't had a chance to read the previous two books, then just questions, funny comments, whatever. Uh, you know, um, but yeah, we've got 3 copies will be given away of Crucible, and reader's choice whether you want the ebook version or the print version. If you choose the print version, I'll have to wait until Chris can send me a box of them, which will probably be 2 or 3 weeks. But I've been able to do this for winners from the previous when Mountains came out, and been able to get a print copies off to those winners. So decide which version you'd like, and think about your favorite character and the most original answers on why you like them. um, we'll um, we'll choose some winners.
Yeah.
Just have
And
fun.
yeah,
If you've got some fun comments to toss out, or other questions or anything, yeah, feel free.
yeah.
So
And we're going to be doing a reading later on, so you and then we'll do the winners after that. So you have time to formulate uh, your answers, but also interesting and snarky comments are welcome.
Oh, yes.
So let's talk about the book. Let's get into it. And if you have to start from the beginning, that's fine without giving too much away. Where do we pick up on Crucible?
Okay. Crucible actually picks up about a minute after Mountains ends. um, so for those who've read Mountains and see where that ends, yeah, this one picks up about a minute after that one ends. And the thing about this, because I had to split the original book three, this is I found a really interesting way to make a nice hook for Crucible. It ends in the middle of a conversation. One character makes a comment, and the book ends. And book four starts with another character responding to
Oh, wow.
the final comment. And when I was flipping through, okay, where do I split this? I found this, I was looking, in the file of the manuscript and looking for about, where's about the halfway mark. And I was kind of breezing through some chapters, and I found this particular point, and I went, yeah, I think this will do it.
Mhm.
So we did end up a little bit heavy on the second. I didn't have to flesh out for quite as much as book three. Book three Crucible started out at about 65,000 words. And so I fleshed that out to about 100,000. Um, Apprentice started out at about 80,000 words. So I didn't have to flesh that out quite as much. And I think it finished up at about 102,000. So both of these are actually a little smaller books than even Running. And then, of course, Mountains is the big fat one.
Mm.
And I'm not sure yet how the last two are going to pan out. I had been working on book five kind of chapter by chapter, and I'm now plugging it into a single document so that I can keep track of the word count on that and see if we can keep it in about the 100,000 word. But there's a lot of stuff that does happen in book five.
Yeah.
Crucible gets into a little bit more of um, whose personal life and some things that happen um, that are going to ratchet up his sense of responsibility, not only on his military career, but also what's going on in his personal life. That's going to burden him in some different ways and set some different challenges for him. Um, and again, the mythology of his people comes into play um, very heavily.
Mm.
So, and he's having to deal with that between his military career, balance all of this out. Um, and that's going to provide some additional challenges for him too. So yeah, he's got a lot to deal with
Now,
in this book. So
for those who are new to the series or watching this in the future, you were talking about his family background. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
yeah, it's kind of well, he's kind of pseudo Native American,
Mhm.
except he's not even a native earthling, so that really, but it does have kind of a Native American flavor. Um, and I have done quite a bit of research. I have a Navajo foster brother that he and I still keep in touch. And he was with our family for several years from the age of 8 through high school. And so we became pretty close. And as I've been very grateful that I've been able to keep in touch with him over the years. And yeah, we were just chatting the other day, exchanging Christmas greetings and stuff. Um, so there's a little bit of aspects that kind of feel Navajo-ish, I guess you can say.
Mhm.
But I've looked at kind of across the board of, and then I kind of took things and tweaked them and created my own culture out of some of these things. So it's not strictly Native American. There are some distinct tweaks that make the Chalka their own culture, but it does definitely have a Native American flavor, and their mythology and stuff is rather Native American in some ways. So
That's very interesting.
that's
So,
where who comes from. Excuse
and
me.
then the military aspect of it, that's from your personal background, correct?
Some of it, yeah. Um, there's I never flew.
Hmm.
When you wear glasses, at least at the time, and I think these days with LASIK and stuff like that, this probably isn't the same rule. But at the time I came in, if you had to wear corrective lenses, you didn't go anywhere near piloting billet.
Hmm.
So I ended up in a different career field. I do have a major character, and those of you who've read Mountains know who this is, who is in the career field I was in. Uh, so yeah, and that follows through the other books too. So um, yeah, so there are some. As a matter of fact, there's one incident. There's a couple of incidents, in fact, that I pulled from very much from personal experience, where I've got and this I was intel, and so I've done briefings in a lot of interesting places to a lot of interesting people. One of the most interesting experiences was my deployment to Sarajevo. Um, I was there with stabilization forces the winter of 97, 98, and I briefed COM S4. And we were at a little base just outside Sarajevo called Elica, which had been one of the very posh spa areas back in the day. And at this point, it was kind of shot up. I lived in, I mean, there was a whole little complex of what had been very, very posh hotels back in the day. And the building I lived in turns out was the place where Archduke Ferdinand spent his last night in mortality.
Oh, wow.
So that was really interesting to know that history. But briefing was interesting. The first morning I was going to brief, the podium that we stood at hit me at about my nose, and I couldn't really see over very well. So I had this. Um, there was this little wooden box. They had this kind of calendar thing up on the wall where they'd hang up on pegs the day of the week, et cetera, et cetera. You know, these three or four little things they would hang up on pegs to keep track of what day it was, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And so the sergeant who did that, he would have to stand up on this little wooden box to reach the pegs. And so I kind of tagged him and said, when you're finished, could you kind of put that little box over here beside the podium? Because I can't see over this thing. And so he did. Well, unfortunately, the briefer just ahead of me was a very tall Scotsman who did the weather briefing. And so he nudged this wooden box out of the way while he was standing there. And I'm going, oh, great. And so I get up to brief, and I'm having kind of surreptitiously trying to nudge this thing over with my boot back and behind and a wooden box, stone floor, and it's making this horrific scraping noise. And everybody's kind of staring like, what is going on? And then I pop up on the thing, stand up on the thing, and everybody bursts out laughing, And I'm going, sorry, sir, altitudinally challenged. And at that point, the general really cracked up. Well, this was, I don't know how many of you are familiar with General Shinseki, because he was the commander.
Hmm.
And I know one day passed him on the base and, hello, sir. And come to find out, he's no taller than me. So if he'd been standing behind the podium, he would have been on the box too, which is probably why he thought it was so funny.
Yeah.
But this was an international, we probably had 36 nationalities just there at that little post outside Sarajevo, which meant I had to learn to speak very slowly and very distinctly because most of these personnel, English was third, fourth, maybe even a fifth language. So I had to speak very slowly and clearly for them. But anyway. So I wrote that little bit about having to stand up on the box into one of the books. I can't,
Oh, that's
and
fun.
I was working on these things so close back to back. I can't remember now. Okay, what happened in book 3 and what happened in book 4? I have to really kind of sit down and think about it. And I think it was in book 3 where that incident happens. But
Mm.
that's probably why the box is there. Yeah. I didn't put it there. It was the guy who was handling the doing the little calendar thing who was using the box, but I kind of shanghaied it from him so I could use it.
Wait, am I thinking of the same general? Did he become eventually
Yeah,
head of the VA?
Eric Shinseki. Yeah,
Okay.
Eric Shinseki. Yeah.
Right, because I used to work for the VA. That's how. That's the only reason I know. Um, so tell us what you can about Crucible. What without without ruining the plot or anything like that.
Uh,
How does it further the story?
well, like I say, Ku has to grow up a lot in a lot of different ways.
Hmm.
There's a very critical thing that happens at the end that shoves him into a next level of responsibility.
Mm.
Um, he the toward the end he becomes a flight commander.
Oh.
But one of the things, if you he's dealing in the beginning with, and this is where Crucible comes from. I hope this isn't going to be too much of a spoiler alert. Um, how to frame this? He has a major challenge. Let's just put it that way: a
Hmm.
major challenge that he has to deal with after the experience he has at the end of Mountains of the Gods. And this is very, it's something that could cost him his pilot slot.
Mm.
It could permanently ground him. And and so he's having to deal with this, um, and in order to regain his pilot qualification. Um, I'll
Wow.
just say it's an injury,
Okay.
and
Okay.
so he's having to deal with this.
Awesome.
And this is at one point.
Hello. Oh, Diane, I think I lost you. Hello. All right, Diane, if you can hear me, I cannot hear you. Oh, yeah, you're right, William. It's the gremlins have returned. We're gonna see if she signs back in, and then we'll probably just jump to the reading after that. So, everybody, hold on. All right, we got some people vying for free books here. uh, you're awesome. I'm so proud of you. All right, Valerie, thank you for that. That's a good compliment. Let's see. Oh, let's see. Yes, the gremlins have taken complete control, but hopefully, Diane can kick them out and come back on. All right. So, for all of you who are still watching while we wait for Diane to come on, don't forget that you can buy this book as of tomorrow on Amazon. I don't have the direct link to the book just yet, but it will be included in the show notes for this episode, and so you'll be able to um, see it there, or you can just search for Crucible of the Gods on Amazon tomorrow and get your copy if you don't win one here tonight. Um, let's see if Diane has messaged me. Nope, not yet. Oh, the gremlins. Okay, we're gonna give her a few more minutes, and then we'll call it a night, and maybe do a redo on this one. Let's see if she can get back on. I do appreciate all of you that have come on to the show to chat with us tonight. Without you guys, we wouldn't have a show. So I appreciate it very much. And let's see. Uh, okay. All right, everybody. So with that, I think we're gonna call it. Looks like the gremlins have struck again, and Diane's having trouble getting back on. So uh, if for all of those, what's that, William? Let's see. I didn't want to make my favorite character known. It was what's the log? Oh, yeah. I got you. I got you. Let's see. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and do my closing arguments here. For all of you that are interested in Diane's books and any of the other offerings of Chris Kennedy Publishing, you can find those here at chriskennedypublishing.com. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter, and you get all kinds of books, including um, um, sci-fi, military sci-fi, space odyssey, space opera, a little bit of a lot of fantasy and some romance, not a whole lot. And they have huge worlds that they've developed over the years, and you can absolutely get lost in them. Of course, you can support this show and Chris Kennedy Publishing by going to the Patreon and getting some of the content there. They do a CKP Confidential. Oh, and I have waxed and waned enough. All right, Diane, are you back?
I think I am. We've got this
All right.
big storm going on out here, and kind of
It kicked you off.
I was hearing thunder around, and all boom, things just kind of went down.
All right. Well, no problem. I was killing time while you were gone, so let's go
Thank.
ahead and get into the
Do you
reading.
want me to
Uh,
finish my?
oh,
Oh,
what were you saying?
okay. Did you want me to finish the background? Um,
Oh, yeah.
anyway, we're who's talking to this instructor, and the instructor tells him whether you make it through Kalataka training and succeed will depend on how much you're willing to endure, how
Mm.
much you're willing, how much pain you're willing to take. And as he walks away, Ku says, all of it.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, I mean, so that becomes his mantra during Crucible as he's dealing with this issue that he's fighting to get his flight status back, and that just becomes his mantra through the book. Anyway, so there's there's that.
Okay,
Okay,
awesome. All right, so everybody, get your comments ready because after the reading, we're gonna pick the winners for this. William Eccles already told us who his favorite character was, and it's a log. Um, and so that's one down. So everybody, get your answers prepared. And Diane, at your leisure, go ahead and do your reading.
okay. This is from chapter 29, and this isn't the battle that's on the cover. It's something that occurs a little earlier. Um, When the spacer apprentice posted at the door announced room, the commander, we shot to our feet. But Commander Tykert overrode him with a crisp, as you were, take your seats. Chairs squeaked as we dropped onto them, and the briefer from intelligence came forward. The intel personnel who deployed with us included Derry's friends. I had tried closing my eyes during briefings a couple of times to imagine their female voices as Derry's. It didn't work. None of the others came close to her lilting accent. This morning's briefing, said Intermediate Officer Lila Gatika from Marroquin, is an update on the Fuego Mono Jassim conflict. and has an overall classification of secret. Like most of her countrymen from near Solien's equator, she had a bronze complexion, brown black hair, and a somewhat nasal accent, definitely not Derry's lilt. Since Jassam's massive attacks on Fuego Mono last winter, she said, which destroyed or disabled approximately one-third of Fuego Mono's multinational defense forces, the Jacks continue to inflict damage on the surface and orbital structures. I glanced at Go and Yobo seated across the center aisle and read humiliation in their bowed heads and the firm set of their mouths. They believe they've lost face with their allies. Jassam's world government, the Dubakan, or People's Hall, Lila said, has declared itself in alliance with the supremacy, but their strike and run tactics differ from Osaga Safa's broad strategy of occupying to conquer. She addressed Tykert, seated on the front row. Sir, Safa has openly stated that Solien and its wealth of resources is his ultimate prize. So analysts at Resistance Pact headquarters believe Jassam's attack on Fuego Mono serves two purposes. First is to weaken Fuego Mono enough to prevent it from supporting Solien against the supremacy. Second, it reduces Solien's defenses by stretching them thin in support of Fuego Mono. To complicate matters, Lila said, the Dubakan also covets Solien. Some analysts believe the ongoing actions are meant to serve its own purposes rather than aid Safa's. Our world has become the prize in the contest between powers. Machitu's harsh breath at my ear and a fleeting glimpse of enemy soldiers marching through Osvelga's capital city sent a shiver down my spine. Resistance Pact Central Operations Planning, Lila said, is developing an O plan to end the Jacks threat. Meanwhile, our mission here has become more urgent. The Jacks have begun to target civilians. A vid rippled opened in her portable Tri-D projection tank. From a distance shot of a gleaming orbital station shaped like three stacked rings and emblazoned with a green corporate logo, the view zoomed to a gaping hole in the middle level. Sundered support structures, blackened from a blast, framed a cavity at least 20 spans wide and 10 high in the sleek hull. Gouts of flame, consuming artificial atmosphere, still spouted from smaller fissures. I went rigid on my chair. My breath stopped in my chest and saw the same reaction from those around me. The most recent attack, Lila said, was against Hiromi Spaceway's orbital passenger hub. Though the blast was contained in one boarding area, officials estimate more than 100 dead, with victims from 4 other worlds besides Fuego Monoan nations. In the projection, debris tumbled outward from the station. A chill coursed through me when I spotted vaguely human shapes. Are those victims' bodies? Yobo's jaw had hardened and Go closed her eyes. Both kept their heads lowered. With most of Fuego Mono's spaceborne early warning systems lost in the initial attack, Lila continued, I'm hearing more thunder. Jack's fighters, operating in pairs, now conduct raids with little opposition. The remaining warning systems detect 2 to 4 incursions daily, targeting widely scattered locations. Our mission is to assist Fuego Mono's surviving space forces with combat space patrols to intercept and eliminate attackers. She cued an image of a Ceviche fighter bearing Jack's markings and a full load of missiles. Jassam and the Supremacy recently sealed their alliance with Jassam's purchase of weapon systems, including modern Ceviche fighters to replace its aging fleet of Chaitra 4s. The Ceviche 9 has greater speed than our Roar 55s, but it can be a disadvantage in a turning fight. Roars are more maneuverable and have a tighter turn radius even in space. We also have longer reach weapons. When, she emphasized, you encounter enemy ships at any time on patrol, because sooner or later you will, you are to engage and destroy. Jack's pilots may lack the training and experience of their lumpy counterparts, but they are not to be underestimated. The rain had ended for the moment by the time we exited the side stairwell, though the ruddy overcast hadn't lifted. Water drizzled off roofs onto white-gray patches of ash mud. Knowing how it caked boots like half-dry pourstone, no one strayed off the boardwalk as we circled the building. One could only access the ground-level squadron section by the front doors. My friends and I entered First Squadron's area and approached the ops desk to find the schedule board already loaded. I had a launch time of 1800 as lead for a 4-ship sortie with Nawat, Coda, and Cipriano. While the desk officer loaded our mission data, I told the others, report for a mission pre-brief at 1600. "You're ready to go, Koo," the desk officer of the day said. "Briefing room 3 will be open at 1600. I nodded. "Thanks, Hale." Following a solid workout at the gym, lunch with the others in the mess hall, and a couple hours at my duty console running Roar versus Ceviche combat simulations, I headed to Intel for the latest threat info. I arrived at our designated briefing room early to review everything before the others came. Nawat showed up first, typical for him, with an eager light in his eyes. He slid in to stand behind the projection table at its left corner. "So I don't bump elbows with anybody," he said. "We don't eat at this table, Nat," I joked. He grinned. "Coda might." When Coda and Sip popped in moments later, Coda carrying a bag of jerky that he passed around, Nawat slid me an "I told you so" smile. "All right," I began the briefing. "We're flying a 4-hour low planetary orbit combat space patrol at an altitude of 200 ranges. Our mission is to search for and eliminate any ships that penetrate Fuego Mono's 500 range space defense zone in our designated sector. On departing Lvivik base, we'll transit to Fuego Mono via Vortex, where we'll establish a patrol track originating here." I touched a symbol overlaying the map and the projection table and slid my finger along the tracks, glowing north-south oval. "If we don't encounter any Jax ships, flight time for each orbit will be 1 standard hour, but we better be prepared for an incursion. Intel says Jax fighters targeted Fuego Mono's Dusaki area coast 3 times last phase. That's not counting the other locations. All 3 were intercepted, but the coast is mostly tourist resorts. An attack there could kill thousands. We'll be operating on high alert." I surveilled my team. Everyone nodded. Their expressions revealed grimness, doubtless recalling the morning's briefing. I gave call signs and frequencies for communicating with Fuego Monoan air controllers and packed fighters in nearby sectors, and listed our munitions: 12 ship-to-ship missiles and an energy cannon. "We're carrying the new missiles, the Sarapapo 7, I said. "Its proximity capability means you can inflict damage with a close miss, and it has a longer reach than the original." "How far away is a close miss?" Noah asked. "Intel says the warhead fragments into a field about a quarter range in diameter," I replied. After covering contingency plans in case of mechanical failure or battle damage, I asked, "Any more questions?" Nawat and Sip had several, and I detected suppressed nervousness in their voices. First time real thing for them. No more exercises with simulated missions. I remember my first mission like it was an hour ago. Coda and I answered their questions until we had to head to life support to suit up. In its basic configuration, the Rorschach 55 Spearhead resembled an attacking spider, with forward-swept wings reaching out like front legs from below the cockpit. Seated high under a bubble canopy, we had 360 degrees of visibility, a necessity in combat. As a modular spacecraft capable of both atmospheric and deep space operations, it bore hardpoints on its fuselage to which extended airfoils could be attached. Those were necessary for launching and landing on Toby. But once we reached space, we used the multiple directional thrusters that pocked the fuselage for maneuvering. The Roar's hybrid propulsion system consisted of internal ejector scramjets and high bypass turbofan engines for atmospheric flight and low planetary orbit operations. They automatically switched to twin magneto-hydrodynamic engines for deep space missions. Suited up and strapped in, with my engines reverberating on idle and all my instruments online, I uploaded navigation and mission data into my flight computer. 6 bars of green light zipped across its main display, and the emotionless female voice in my earphone said, "Upload complete." "Copy," I acknowledged. I final checked my weapons, signaled ready to Branko, and she and Megan pulled the chocks and leaped clear. Nawat, in the 2 position, rolled after me from our hangar to the taxiway and Coda and Cipriano emerged from their hangar into the 3 and 4 slots. We positioned our ships at the runway's head, spaced for 20-second intervals between launches, and began to run up our engines. In the tug-of-war between throttles and foot brakes, our engines screamed like ghost cats warning off their rivals. At controls clearance, I snapped, "Shield lead rolling," and released the brakes. My ship lunged forward when I pushed the throttles to full military power. Distance markers along the runway blurred as my velocity mounted. When I rotated to leap skyward, my afterburner seared the perpetual reddish twilight. Launching never failed to accelerate my heart rate. I didn't need the brief 6 Gs to tug my mouth into a grin. Still climbing, I banked clear of the runway into a wide arc to await the others. 20 seconds later, Nawat's nose cone appeared at my right wing, and his voice crackled in my helmet speakers. 2 locked in. "Copy 2, I said, and smiled. Once during lead-in training, Nawat had asked why, being a lefty, he couldn't lock in at that side. 10 minutes out of Lviv base, I heard, "Air control to shield lead, sending vortex coordinates, acknowledge receipt." A line of cobalt digits appeared in my astrogation display. "Control, shield lead," I called, "coordinates received." With a switch to the intership frequency, I relayed the message to my team and hit send. 2 cords received, Nawat said. 3 cords received, came from Coda. 4 cords received, Sip echoed. I locked in my heading for the designated location and nosed into another climb until a sapphire point appeared in my astrogation display. "Loose trail formation," I ordered. 30-second intervals. Everyone slid into loose trail behind me. Vortex tunnels allowed no room for maneuvering. I'd never known claustrophobia until my first vortex sortie. The portal never appeared until we actually entered it. Via my astrogation display, I watched the speck of light that marked the entry point swell into an electric blue circle with a targeting reticle's crosshairs. The ring widened at my approach, like the pupil of an eye with an iris of scintillating azure. I gritted my teeth as the ring expanded off the screen's edges. Lightning engulfed my cockpit like the gullet of an ethereal snake. I swallowed. 4 minutes to Fuego Mono. I never watched the cockpit chronometer. Just a minute. Cockpit chronometer. Tightening my grip on the control stick to maintain steady flight in the tumult, I focused entirely on keeping the nose of my fighter's dart-shaped symbol locked on the crosshair's intersection. The effort brought sweat to my face. When the dark blot of space appeared at the vortex's end, my ship leaped forward once more. I released my breath when the crackling light dissipated behind me and said, "Report as you clear." "Too clear," Nawat said. Coda and Sip called in seconds apart. "Copy," I said. "Combat spread, half-range separation." I watched the others accelerate into their positions beyond my right wing and saw the flash of wingtip beacons against the blackness as Nawat and Sip made the standard half roll. Going inverted at the wing's lead when we flew missions in space provided near universal visual awareness. The vortex operator had set our exit coordinates to spit us out at the north end of our patrol oval. 200 ranges below, Fuego Mono's Daisuke coast and its tropical sea gleamed pale gold and turquoise under early morning sunlight as the terminus between day and night withdrew like a shadowy curtain. I switched to the packed fighter's frequency. "Guardian lead, shield lead. Do you copy?" "Affirmative, shield lead," a robust voice rang through my earphones. "Shield team is on station. Any activity on your watch?" "Nothing to report, Shield," Guardian lead replied. "Quiet the whole time." "Copy," I said. "Guardian team is relieved to stand down." "Roger that." "Daisuke control," I called next. "Shield team is on station. Guardian team returning to base." "You are understood, Shield team," said a man with a heavy accent, different from your bows and goes. I found it difficult to understand. "You are proper to proceed." Returning to intership comms, I said, "All right, Shield team, stay sharp." We hadn't progressed 400 ranges along our track, paralleling the coast toward the planet's southern pole, when a pair of blips lit my threat scope. "Bogies at 012 high and diving," I called. 320 ranges out. Don't think they've seen us yet. "All the better for us," Coda said. "Close it up, activate targeting and weapons, and check in." I ordered my team. My pulse accelerated with a boost of adrenaline as I addressed my flight computer. Targeting active. Check missiles. Check energy cannon charge. The others reported their status. Anticipation edged gnats and Sip's voices in my earphones. The cannon's charge blinked green, and the missile's standby lights lit amber on my weapons board. I switched frequency. Daisuke control, shield lead. 2 contacts at. I gave the coordinates. Vectoring to intercept. Shield lead from Daisuke control, I heard it in that odd accent. You have duty to destroy. Roger, Wilco, I replied. The ready chime rang in my helmet speakers, and the white targeting reticle materialized before my eyes. I shifted my vision left, then right to check its status. It tracked my line of sight. Good to go. Taking the Ceviche's speed advantage over our roars into consideration, I said, Vector for lead pursuit intercept. We need to get ahead of them, cut them off. We dived as one on full afterburner, our breaths coming in grunts against the pressure of high G's. The others' quick huffs sounded in my helmet speakers. At 200 ranges out, my threat computer positively identified the bogies as Ceviche 9s. We knew they had spotted us when, having closed the distance to 160 ranges at an altitude of 95 ranges, one peeled off and banked away, thrusters pulsing red against the dark. The second continued his dive. 3, 4, take the wingman. I snapped it, taut with fresh adrenaline. 2 and I have the leader. Coda and Sip arced after him, their exhaust nozzles like twin flares. Missile 1, ready, I said. Its amber light flashed green on my weapons board. Our target must have recognized our intention as we closed. He altered his heading to evade our intercept, putting us directly at his 180. Burn. Really stupid move under other circumstances, but if he doesn't change headings, he can outrun us straight to his target, and he knows it. I narrowed my vision on the distant glow of his dual exhaust nozzles. The targeting reticle wavered momentarily, then locked. Out of range blinked on my console. Missile 1, fire, I said anyway. My ship lurched, and a brilliant flare zipped from beneath it. I eyed its white track in the threat scope and counted the seconds. Maybe the proximity fragmentation will be enough. 5 seconds before it detonated, the Ceviche's track in my threat scope twitched. My missile's bright blip abruptly veered away to explode in empty space, while the Jax fighter continued to arrow toward the Daisuke coast. Tension tightened my jaw. Scat! Decoy flares. My missile got close enough to scare him. My altimeter read 80 ranges, and my threat scope showed the Ceviche dropping below 60. What if he can deploy his payload from high altitude? Got to stop him before people die. Lots of people. Fresh sweat beaded my face. Think, Coon. Launching decoys cost him a couple seconds distant on us. That prompted an idea. What if we launch missiles in quick succession? Let his flare draw off the first one and send in another on top of it, straight up his exhaust nozzle. Missile 2, ready, I said. When its light went green, I called 2, lead. My words came through tension-quickened breath as I explained to Nawat. 3-second separation. Launch on my mark. Roger, lead. Wilco. I heard the tight grin in his voice. Once more, I fixed my vision on the Ceviche. The red of its engine nozzles glowed like Machitu's taunting eyes. The reticle locked, in range that time. Missile 2, fire, I ordered. I felt the lurch and began the count again as the weapon's torch orange booster propelled it into darkness. 3, 2, 1. Mark. Missile 1, fire, Nawat snapped. I watched his missile vanish too, then gave my full attention to my threat scope. 2 white blips, appearing to fly in trail, arced after the Ceviche. Sweat dampened my gloves' linings. At 25 seconds, the Ceviche's red track jerked, and, as expected, my missile's white lines spiraled into oblivion. 3 seconds later, Nawat's missile turned the Jax ship into a miniature nova. It's a kill! His yell rang through my earphones. I blew a relieved breath for the people of Daisuke before I cheered his victory. Nice shot, too. He'll never have it that easy again. Okay.
Very nice, very nice. No, that was great. I love battle scenes. Um,
Yeah, they're fun to
so
write.
yeah, so well, that was going to be my question. what is your favorite aspect of writing this series? Is it the character development? Is it the battle scenes, or a little mixture of everything?
Um, yeah, the little mixture of everything. It's been interesting to get into the characters' off-duty lives as well,
Hmm.
and explore some of that too, especially since we've got characters from coming from different cultures and different expectations. So that's been fun too. But yeah, the and I've got a couple of really good books that, since I was never a pilot myself, I've got a couple of good pilot friends who let me pick their brains. But I've also got a couple of really good books. There's one on combat maneuvering and tactics that was written by a Navy pilot. Um, and it's excellent. He's got diagrams and stuff like that in there, and like 2-on-1 scenarios and multi-ship scenarios and stuff like that. So it's an education for me uh, as well. And that's one thing that's fun about doing the research is the education I get from it.
Yeah. So, when I know you already had what the first three books done when you talked to Chris,
Right. And then
right?
the third one was the one we had to split. And I had the
Yeah.
fourth one, which is now book 5, partially written.
So when you write, are you a planner, an outliner, or do you fly by the seat of your pants?
Some of both.
Okay.
I know the whole story arc. I know where it's going to end. But there's times when, and I know the major events that have to happen to lead up to the climax, but there's times when the characters take things into their own hands. I had that happen with book 4.
Hmm.
Here I was racing to get this done by the end of November, and a few days before Thanksgiving, a couple of characters took a matter into their own hands, and I went, oh, great. I mean, it worked out. It's great. It really
Hmm.
is. I mean, it ratchets up the tension and it sets things up for the final book. But it took an additional 3 days and 2 more chapters
Hmm.
to to cover what happened when one character gave Ku some very critical information,
Hmm.
and he had to make a quick decision
Yeah.
uh,
Well, so,
and act on it.
yeah. Sometimes you got to listen to the voices in your head. You know, you just gotta.
Absolutely. And I've always been told, when the characters start taking matters into their own hands, you've got good, strong characters. And like I say, even though it was unexpected, it definitely ratcheted up tension and set it up for, leading into the final book. So,
Awesome. So before we get to the audience's favorite characters, who is your favorite character to write?
it's got to be Ku.
Hmm.
I'm because I'm in his head the whole time,
Hmm.
and at this point, I kind of feel like I raised the kid.
Hmm. Well, technically you did.
Yeah.
Well,
There's a lot of the others that I really enjoy, a lot of the other characters too, and working with them and seeing their personalities develop, through the course of the books.
yeah. So before we get to the audience comments, would you like me to choose the winners to take the hurt off of you, or would do you want to pick them?
Yeah, why don't you go that? Why don't you do that?
Okay.
Because yeah, I'm probably too close to some of them, so I
Yeah.
probably would not have a what should we call uh, um what's the word? Now my brain
Little
is gone
conflict of
shut.
interest there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well,
Avoiding
so
conflict.
for the first person, I'm gonna pick William Eckel because he's been pretty prolific in the comments and pretty snarky, which I love.
Yeah, I
Um,
do too.
and his favorite character was the log. There's I guess in uh, like Budge training and stuff like that is the log that they have to carry around and things like that.
Oh
So
yeah.
I enjoyed that comment. That and he gives other
That
people hell in the comments too.
yeah. That's actually in book 5. And he and I've kind of uh he like I say, he's my accountability partner. So
Ah,
uh, he's seen chapters from book 5, some of the early ones that I'm kind of going back and polishing up and tying them into the previous books. So
oh,
yeah,
so,
and I took that from the Seal Buds training.
mm-hmm,
They have to carry around their little boats,
mm-hmm,
and since my guys operate mostly on land, I thought they've got to have something. So they have these huge logs that they all have to carry around wherever they go.
mm-hmm. Well, and oh, so he cheated, but I'll allow it. All right. Let's see. Next one would be Tony Carroll because he or she understood the assignment,
She.
and she understood the assignment and gave us an actual character is Hennock.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And here, I'll put the comment up here. Oh,
Okay.
it's got a spoiler on it. Hold on, sorry.
Okay.
I'll read it. Let's try again. So my favorite is Hennock. He seems so genuine and well clueless, and that is until he asks Ku to be guardian.
Okay. Yeah. Let's not get into the spoiler.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna leave that one alone.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. And Hanukkah is Ku's cousin, and he's a little older. He's in the class ahead of Ku during pilot training,
Oh, okay.
and they kind of give each other bad time and stuff like that. So.
And then the last would be Valerie. Because she is very complimentary and really wants these books. So she's and then of course, well, it's a very nice comment. So let's go ahead and put that up. Favorite character is
Okay.
you, and none of the characters or clear, beautiful descriptions surrounding would not exist without her glorious ability to put scenes uh, in your brain before your eyes. And then, of course, the snark continues with William calling her a suck up.
Yeah, William would say that.
Yeah.
But
So,
Valerie, it's got to be one of the book characters. It can't be me.
yeah, yeah. But so with that, if you all would let Diane know what version of the book that you would like, either here on the podcast or via social media. If you're friends with her on social media, let her know. And that's going to be, of course, William, Valerie, and Tony that won the books.
Okay. Okay.
And
All
just
right. Great.
let her know. So, with that being said, what's up next for you? Are we going to see you out in the world anywhere? Any conventions or anything like that?
Yeah. The first one will be Superstars.
Mm-hmm.
And then the weekend after that, I'm going to Life, the Universe, and Everything in Provo, Utah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a long time since I've been there, but I was involved with the group that got that started way back when I was in college. And so there's a lot of old friends there. That's kind of like Old Home Week too,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like Superstars. Although I've been to Superstars a lot more in the last few years than I have to Life, the Universe, and Everything.
Mm-hmm.
But then later so those are both in February, back to back weekends. And then in late March, I'll be going to Fantasy in North Carolina.
Oh, I'll see you
And
there then.
yeah, yeah, and definitely planning on FactoryCon this year. And there'll be
Mm-hmm.
some others in between. To some extent, it might depend on how well I'm doing on meeting my deadlines for Chris.
Of course.
Um, so yeah. Although what I do, like at Superstars, I go a couple days early and just kind of camp out up in the hotel room and do a writer's retreat. It's really nice to be able to just kind of get away from all the day-to-day interruptions and stuff like that, and get in some serious writing time before the conference starts. So those are the ones I know of right offhand, but there's probably there's one in up here in Dallas, just up the road from me, FenCon, in September, and so I'm probably going to make it to that one this year too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we'll see.
All right,
But yeah, I
everybody.
do plan to get out and about this year.
Yeah, keep your eyes open because you'll probably see her. No, that sounds like a nice list of conventions to go to. Did you say LibertyCon?
I did not make, the odds were not in my favor.
Oh, okay.
to
And
get a membership to Liber. I would love to,
yeah, when
but
you're gonna
yeah, that's
when
one
you
of
go to
those.
that one, when you go to that one, you'll enjoy it. That's a good one. Because that's
Yeah,
definitely old home week. We kind of take over the place. So
that's what I've seen. Just from the posts on the CKP Facebook pages, I'm going. I wish I could make it.
yeah.
So yeah, because it's fun to catch the shenanigans even on the Facebook page and go, oh, I wish I could have made the lottery or whatever it was. So, but
Well,
yeah,
so
I'm definitely planning on FactoryCon, and I guess yeah, that'll kind of be the other old home week too. So
yeah, FactoryCon's real fun. We had a good time.
yeah,
Uh, and so William will take whatever you give him. I say you just give him a handwritten copy, and let's see.
he's he's been seeing my drafts.
Uh,
So
so
okay,
Valerie would like a hard copy,
okay,
and so would Tony.
okay, cool.
All right,
Canduigi,
all right,
as we
and
used to
then
say. Yeah,
so let's put um, your website up again for people watching now and in the future. The most up-to-date information on any author that you like is most likely going to be on their website. If you're hoping to find something on Facebook with their crazy algorithms, you might miss something. So go search out your favorite authors. You can find Diane here. Of course, uh, not to speak too badly of Facebook, but you can find her on Facebook. And of course, you can find her on Patreon. Go support your favorite authors, and they'll keep on giving you the content that you love. And of course,
yeah,
I've put the link to the bundle of all three books in the comments, so you can find those there. And then once the link comes out for Crucible tomorrow, I'll put that in the show notes, so you can find it there as well.
great. Yeah, and
Um,
on my website is where you can sign up to join my newsletter,
mm,
and I'll be doing that probably once a month and alternating uh, between that and the Patreon. So once a
very
month.
good.
So
All right, so look out for that, and I'm sure everyone is excited about that. And more content, and people are just thirsty for content. So, and before we go, let me. I'm going to help out a few buddies and advertise a little bit for them. Some other YouTube channel affiliated YouTube channels. If you go to World Maker Books, that's Mark and Joy Wandry of the famed Four
yay.
Horsemen universe, and Joy has been doing chapter reads from one of Mark's first books, not the first book, but one of his earlier books, and so that's pretty cool thing. And then I think they're going to be continuing to make content um, on that channel there. And of course, Marisa Wolf, we've done some book launches on that website as well. On that YouTube
Yeah,
channel, you can find her, Marisa Wolf. Um, and then our good buddy Casey Ezell Writer Life. You can find her by searching Casey Ezell Writer Life, and it's good. It's good info for people who want to be writers to see the life of a writer who not only is a prolific writer but also has a day job. So if you want helps and tips and or just to find out about your favorite authors, that's a good channel to go to as well. And then in addition, on this channel, we have the Future Books podcast hosted by Randall Willis and produced by Shark Flight Media. Our good buddy Ian Malone does that, and that comes out once a month. And the December episode is out. It came out a little early. And so go check that out. That is featuring Casey Moores and his novel, The Gilded Cage, and of course, they talk about all the upcoming books that are coming out, including the one that's coming out tomorrow, Crucible of the Gods. Get it, read it, love it, and show your support uh, and just be a good fan. And so, with that, let me not put my DJ Sparkles up here. Hold on. All right. So, Diane, I appreciate you coming on and and launching your book here. It's always a treat to have you on, and you're always welcome to come back in the future. And
Well, thank you very much for hosting me. It's fun. I'm just sorry that the storm interfered, but
well,
unfortunately, I don't have control of the weather here.
yeah. Well, let me tell you a story to ease your mind. So my very first podcast with the boss, Chris Kennedy, he was 15 minutes late to a live podcast, and I was
I
vamping for
caught that one.
yeah, I was vamping for 15 minutes. So your little blip is fine. You're doing
Yeah,
fine.
I remember that one.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, no, you're fine. Come back anytime, and everybody go check out our book tomorrow. And with that, I say good night, and until next time, probably after the new year. Everybody have a great night, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeremy.
Thank you.